Hello, everyone. It's another episode of the Richard Lewis Show. Richard Lewis here. No Sam at the moment. Reason for that being I'm having to get up super early to record these. We're not streaming them at the moment either. And that's because I've got a really crazy week at E-League. So I apologize for all the people who wanted to see some content and whatnot live on Twitch. As soon as this week's over, it's going to be good. We're going to be able to go back to a relatively normal schedule. Sam's back. I'll be fine. But unfortunately, I'm working like Sunday till Tuesday or something in terms of content production. So I'm a little bit tired. Definitely tune into E-League. But there was a lot to talk about in the media this week, and it seemed to me vitally important that we got into some of this as soon as possible. So I think without any further ado, we'll start. And this might be a little bit shorter than usual, but let's get into it. So first story I wanted to talk about and just bring to your attention was just a follow-up from a story in a previous show. You will remember that as part of Sweden's constant decline that they're in as a country. Just by the way, an absolutely horrible place to go. I know I have a lot of Swedish fans. I see it on the metrics when I look at my analytics. I do genuinely feel sorry for you guys with what's happening to your country at the moment. It's not about any of the shit that people are trying to throw out there. Richard's talking about immigration, and I'm talking about common fucking sense and how it's been completely eroded. I'm talking about how these days, you've just got this insane misandrist approach to, legislature. And we'll just start by having a look at this here, which is, of course, about the Mansplaining Hotline. For those that didn't catch this episode, this was a union paid to have a hotline created. So if there was any mansplaining in the workplace, keep in mind, mansplaining doesn't exist. What is labeled mansplaining by these liberals, it's just being an asshole. That's all it really is. It's just being an asshole. But what happened was men called in to say this is ridiculous, and good on them, right? So how did The Independent report this? Well, men call Sweden's mansplaining hotline to mansplain why they don't like it. And you can see men have been calling a dedicated mansplaining hotline to ask for tips on how not to be sexist, as well as to mansplain to call handlers why the scheme is a bad idea. Unionen, Sweden's largest union, ran the advice line throughout last week and encouraged women to call up when male colleagues gave them unsolicited and patronizing lectures on things they already understood. And of course, just to put this out there while we're looking at this, you must obviously realize that, we experience life subjectively. I don't know what's in your head. I don't know what you understand or don't understand. But if I understand something, maybe I will explain it to you on the basis that I don't believe you would understand it. It's got nothing to do with gender. It's just, why would you, right? Now, anyway, it's absurd. It was part of a campaign to highlight and stamp out the insidious and damaging practice of mansplaining, which the organization said can lead to unequal pay. Absolutely no factual basis for this. Nothing to substantiate this in their report. They've just conflated two feminist issues that aren't real. Of course, the gender pay gap has been debunked multiple times by credible economists. And mansplaining, of course, is just a label for a phenomenon that transcends gender. It's just simply being rude, making assumptions. It's got nothing to do with gender. But although they sought publicity, the union, which represents around 600,000 people, which is very big when you consider Sweden's population, told The Local it was surprised when the story was picked up by national newspapers all across Europe. It seems the concept struck a chord with women globally and touched a nerve in many men. Not what happened. That's not what happened. Here's what happened. People identified something as being patently absurd. And naturally, when something stupid is happening, the news try and report on it. Why do they do that? Not because necessarily they want to abolish it. They want to, more often than not, actually, I would say a lot of these publications just wanted to show solidarity, say it's a good idea. But here's the reality. Media is a click-based business. It's click-based. So that's what they do. They go for clicks. And there's nothing that's going to get clicks more than stupidity. People love it. They love a bit of stupidity. Somebody being stupid, brilliant. It's free clicks because people like to laugh at it and criticize it. That's exactly what happened here. It's not, kind of an endorsement of what you're doing. Perhaps as a result of the attention it received, some Swedish media outlets claimed the line was dominated by angry male callers, which actually would prove that maybe mansplaining doesn't exist, if that was true. If you set up a hotline that's dedicated to enabling women to come in and complain about mansplaining, and the only people calling in are men saying mansplaining doesn't exist, maybe it doesn't exist. I don't know. Maybe that's proof that the hotline shouldn't exist at all and is a disgusting waste of money. One operator reported most of her calls were from men who wanted to tell her why mansplaining was a bad term to use, how the campaign was bad, and how it should have been run instead. Many of our calls, unfortunately, are from men who talk for a very, very long time. Say Yilmaz, a volunteer call handler, told Arbetsvalden. It blocks the line and makes it impossible for other people to come forward. Yeah, I'm sure that's what's happening. I'm very confident that there was a absolute bunch of women who were just, in tears. I can't get through. I'm going to complain about my mansplaining, and I can't get through because there's men mansplaining. I'm sure that's exactly what happened. But a union spokesperson told the local this was not the case. Some of the men who were called were actually looking for guidance on how not to mansplain, the spokesman said. Of course, obviously, a spokesperson who was mansplaining to the media about how this mansplaining hotline works to stop mansplaining. Obviously, a spokesperson for the project is going to come out and say the project works. Our mansplaining campaign has attracted engagement from both women and men. Many women who rang in have felt that someone finally put into words a recurring experience in both their working and private lives. The men, for their part, have been both curious about a concept they were not aware of and annoyed about a concept they see as discriminatory. Some men also wanted to get tips on how you can avoid mansplaining. I would recommend just not talking to women. Seems to be the easiest way to circumnavigate that problem, if you believe it is a problem. We knew, of course, that it would spark a debate, but never it would go all the way to CNN, the BBC, and the New York Times, he said. The concept of mansplaining has a bit of an unexpected angle to it and provokes discussion. We think that's good. That's the point of the campaign, that the question takes on a life in the workplace. Anyway, it goes on. I mean, fuck, I'll stop giving you brain cancer. But the reality here is, of course, it's that classic, we're just starting a debate. We're saying something that is inarguably misandrist. We're saying something that is inarguably sexist. It's based on gender, the term mansplaining. We all know what happened when Notch used the term cunt-fused. We all know what happened there. And when what they do is they back away from something. This always happens. The progressives, they back away and say, we're just trying to start a debate, man. Okay, cool. That's what people do when they talk about immigration as well. But you say that's verboten. It's forbidden. You can't do it. You can't start that conversation. Any conversation you guys want to start with your misplaced bullshit, we just have to have that conversation, I guess. I totally understand. That's what's going on. Now, let's, of course, get into students. This time in the UK. It's not in America. What's been going on in the world of the student? Well, we all know that they need protection from the media, of course. So what have they decided to do? This is the London City University. They've decided that you need to ban The Sun, the Daily Mail, and the Express from campus. And you can see this was a motion that was passed And journalism students actually reacted with anger because it was passed by a minority of their colleagues who want to exclude titles such as, The Sun, the Daily Mail, the Express. You'll notice they're all conservative publications, although I'm sure the Sun would balk at that label. Obviously, they were big supporters of New Labour, which should tell you everything you need to know about New Labour, of course. And you can see, look, these papers have published stories that demonize refugees and minorities and actively scapegoat the working classes. However, City University, which houses one of the most respected undergraduate and postgraduate journalism departments in Britain, vowed that students would continue to have access to a wide range of newspaper material. And it says here that this ban, the effect of it, is unclear since the campus has no real retail outlets selling newspapers. You can't buy a newspaper on campus. You don't get them in stores or anything like that. So what does it mean? So it means a bunch of busybodies are going to go around and, of course, remove them. And we've seen this multiple times. We've seen this with student activists who go around tearing down posters for controversial speakers, claiming their safety is being infringed. This is what's going to happen here. This is exactly what they're looking to do. So it's happening in the UK as well. I did tell you guys that it was going on. And, of course, people, they just simply... they nobody seems to care. There's obviously the journalism students there are kind of fighting back. You could see they were saying, look, I think they're garbage publications. It's not a reason for a ban, but eventually they'll get their way, and people will just have to suck it up because safety. That's exactly how it operates. Now let's move over to Germany, and this is a report in the Telegraph. Now, you may remember some people. That were labelled insane. They said that if we keep allowing these unchecked immigration quotas, what's going to happen is we're going to get inevitably some radicalized Muslims coming over in the group. And people said, well, look, that's the price you're just going to have to pay. If I gave you a bowl of M&Ms and said one was poisoned, I mean, out of hundreds, you wouldn't call them an unsafe bowl of M&Ms. I mean, that's the argument they use. I would disagree. I wouldn't want to eat those M&Ms, frankly, even if there was just one, because, if you're unlucky, you're going to get it. But anyway, I think we can agree that, there's been some issues in Germany. We all remember the reports that came out of last New Year's Eve with the sexual assaults. We know that, the German government and police were told not to reveal any identifying factors about the perpetrators, anything that would potentially lead to white supremacists and Islamophobes having material. But as I said, I like to deal in the realm of facts. Facts are important. And the perpetrators were indeed overwhelmingly refugees and overwhelmingly Islamic in their beliefs. And of course, we all know that if you follow Islam, as you should, privately, peacefully, limited to your own household, Islam, it's not inherently bad. It's a doctrine. You can happily practice it. I'm all for freedom of religion. But certainly when you start talking about Sharia and you become a bit more radical in your views, I got a problem with that, actually. I don't see that as compatible with the way I want to live my life. And why indeed should I be oppressed in that sense? Of course, I can't be oppressed. I'm a white male. But anyway... this is the news story that, indeed, it's happened. A German intelligence officer was arrested over making a Islamist plot. And indeed, it turns out that most likely the spy agency in Germany has been infiltrated. So a German intelligence officer was reportedly arrested over a suspected Islamist plot to bomb the agency's headquarters in Cologne. The 51-year-old official was said to have made a partial confession to the plot, according to Der Spiegel. The suspect attempted to pass on sensitive information about Germany's domestic security agency, which could lead to a threat to the office, an official told the newspaper. He is accused of making Islamist remarks online under a false name and offering internal information during chats. The BFV said the man behaved inconspicuously prior to his arrest. He had, since April, been engaged in gathering intelligence on Islamist extremists in Germany, Der Spiegel said. Online chats were apparently found between the suspect and other Islamists in which he attempted to recruit them to the intelligence agency to mount an attack on non-believers, carrying out a bomb attack on the spy headquarters in the name of Allah. He used several different names online, and his activities were uncovered only about a month ago. The man's family reportedly knew nothing of his conversion to Islam 2 years ago and his subsequent radicalization. Obviously, we're talking a lot about the radicalization of white men because maybe they watched the Milo Yiannopoulos video. And again, it's just another leftist term that's going to get watered down. This is radicalization. This is when you decide that you're going to bomb people based on your ideology. That's radicalization. Watching Milo Yiannopoulos and deciding, yeah, actually, I think it's okay to criticize Islam, not radicalization. So now, you can see the suspect is thought to have pledged allegiance to Mohammed Mahmoud, who is the Austrian leader of the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant terrorist group. And Germany is now on high alert following several terror attacks over the summer. And look at this number. This will blow your mind. The BFE estimates there are about 40,000 Islamists in Germany. That's militarized Muslims. Radical Muslims, and that includes 9,200 ultra-conservative Islamists known as Salafists. Hans-Jörg Maassen, who leads the agency, told Reuters in an interview early this month. So Germany not only remains a target for radical Islam, this unchecked border control, these policies in place by Merkel, has now allowed their intelligence agency to be infiltrated. We have no idea what's been compromised. We have no idea what this could lead to. You know, I don't like to preach the culture of fear, but if I was a German citizen right now, especially one living in Cologne, and obviously I've got lots of friends in Cologne because it's an esports hub, I'd be terrified, frankly. This is awful, awful news. And again, it just shows when common sense is put out in the field to wither and die, this is what happens. The fact that we can't discuss these topics, the fact that we can't question the narrative, the fact that we can't question what people are doing, policies, obviously this is what it leads to. This is where you end up. Right. Talking about Islamic attacks, obviously there was a terrible one in Ohio. Another part of the world I visited quite regularly, working for, MLG and stuff like that, and I was horrified to hear about the attack on the Ohio State University, where 11 people were injured. Mercifully, it was a knife attack. Might be scant consolation to anyone affected. Had this been a gun attack, it could have been a lot worse. But actually, you'll see this is a example of where guns were the hero, because a fast-acting police officer was able to take out the terrorist in very quick time before too much damage was done. So you can see this started at 9 a.m., 10 to 10. A car was crashed into a group of students and a faculty lecturer, and he exited the vehicle. This is the individual. I'm not going to say his name. He exited the vehicle and began slashing just wildly to pedestrians. The responding officer, Alan Haruzhko, shot and killed him very quickly. It was in less than a minute. It was a rapid response. And as I said, that officer is a fucking hero. So what do we know here? Well, this individual had described that perpetrated this awful crime, had described himself as a scared Muslim. And he'd said that he'd come to America and felt that, he was being discriminated against, that he wanted to pray in the open, but he was scared because of everything that was going on in the media. This is his words. This was what he said in August. And this should have set alarm bells off, by the way. Not a lot of distance between August and November. Somebody should have picked up on this, because these are the signs when people start talking about how they're afraid and they feel they're being oppressed and perpetrated upon. They're the people that are indeed going to be radicalized. They are the people who are likely to fall into radical lines of thought because they believe they are the victims and they want to redress the balance against their oppressors. That is the exact sentiment that ISIS recruiters prey upon. They seize upon it and they fill people's heads with nonsense. Now, who else has been filling people's heads with nonsense? Well, it's the media, of course. And let's just put this into very sharp focus. The media have been telling everybody that in Trump's America, obviously you're not safe. In America, you're not safe. The whole of the Trump campaign, let's remind ourselves, he said in August he felt unsafe. We have been told, don't wear it, I can't wear a hijab in public anymore because Trump supporters will beat me up, and I can't be a Muslim, and America is racist, and America is bad. And this is what the media has been peddling. This is what they've been putting out there and saying is fact. It's not fact. It's a lie. It's a myth. America is not a racist country. I live here. I live in Atlanta. I live in the South. I see diversity every day in Atlanta. Do not buy this bullshit. Now, the media have created this state of fear, and they have to take partial responsibility for enabling this young man to be radicalized. Fact. They filled his head with nonsense. They've told him he's not safe, and then quite possibly via websites. We don't know. We do know ISIS have claimed responsibility. Look, if some car down the road gets a flat tire, ISIS take responsibility for it these days. They're just trying to make themselves look like this big scary boogeyman, when in actual fact, they're not. They're not the all-powerful, all-conquering, radical jihadist caliphate enforcing force that they like to make out that they are. It's simply not true. Dangerous, yes. Need to be stopped, absolutely. But they claim responsibility for any attack. They did it with the shooting in Orlando. The terrible situation with that shooting in the gay club. And of course, what it really boils down to is that some of the more toxic ideologies at the heart of Islam had driven this individual crazy. The fact that he couldn't reconcile his bi-curious nature with his faith prompted him to pick up a gun, and then moments before he was killed, moments before he perpetrated the act, he's pledged allegiance to ISIS. I mean, it's nonsense. He's probably had no contact with any recruiters. There was no evidence to substantiate that. This is what they do. So take that with a pinch of salt. Sure, definitely take that with a pinch of salt. But back to the story. Obviously, this person has said here in August, I'm a Muslim. It's not what the media portrays me to be. If people look at me, a Muslim praying, I don't know what they're going to think, what's going to happen. But I don't blame them. It's the media that put the picture in their heads, so they're going to just have it, and it's going to make them feel uncomfortable. I was kind of scared right now, but I just did it. I relied on God. I went over to the corner and just prayed. So even this individual is talking about how the media's created a culture of fear, but then was so fucking stupid, he didn't realize maybe he also had been misled into a culture of fear. So, and then he posted on Facebook just before the morning of the attack, I'm sick and tired of seeing Muslims killed and tortured everywhere. I'd like to know where this is happening, because this is bullshit. I can't take it anymore. America, stop interfering with other countries if you want us Muslims to stop carrying out lone wolf attacks. So, okay, I think we can agree there's been some flaws, putting it mildly, in America's foreign policy, and indeed they aren't some innocent, all-conquering force of benevolency in the world. They've done some terrible things, and I think we can agree. That's at a government level. What's disgusting about terrorist attacks is that you take it out on civilians, and you've done it on a campus, where many, if not the overwhelming majority, would not support the war in Iraq, would not support action in Islamic countries. The victims of this attack were probably people who completely identified with this belief that America needs to stop interfering with foreign countries. That's how stupid the average act of terrorism actually is. And of course, he was a Somalian refugee. We know about the conflict in Somalia. He moved to Pakistan with his family in 2007 and came to the United States. He was a refugee brought in as a legal permanent resident in 2014. And was here actually on tax subsidies and benefits, and was given this fantastic opportunity to achieve an education at a wonderful institution in Ohio. So that's what passes for racism, I guess, these days. And as I said, mercifully it was cut short. But what else can we learn about the attacker? Well, we can blame the media a little bit. We can blame, obviously, the radicalization of Muslims by radical Muslims. They're definitely to blame as well. But let's just have a look at this. So this was a report, and it's not a particularly well-known website. Mainstream media won't be picking up on this one. This is Dark Politics. This was here. The Ohio State University terrorist who went on a vehicle and knife rampage before being shot dead was a social justice warrior who had been studying a branch of political correctness before the attack. And I believe this was picked up by InfoWars as well. I don't like to link to InfoWars because everyone immediately discredits it. But there was a tweet put out by somebody, a student called Haley Crow, said that the attacker was part of a group and they were working on a group assignment about microaggressions. And the tweet said, before it was deleted, when the suspect's name looked oddly familiar, then you see he's in your group project. So they were doing a project on microaggressions in this ridiculous course that they were doing. And obviously, just so we are clear, this is important because obviously this is somebody who's already said he's scared. He thinks he's being under constant assault for simply exercising his constitutional right to freedom of religious practice. But it's all lies, and then he piled upon those lies are more lies. Microaggressions don't exist. They're not real. Even the professor who came up with the term microaggression says it is being misused and overused. That microaggressions aren't people just annoying you or saying things you disagree with. Now, you can see microaggressions include identifying as American or even using the word American because it's problematic for people who aren't American. You can't use the word obese. You can't use the word normal. You can't say mothering, fathering, homosexual, illegal alien, senior citizen. These are all microaggressions. This is just language policing. This is tone policing. It is a form of censorship. You can see that they linked the post here in the report as well. But this is, again, the social justice warrior types will, of course, blame Trump's America for this attack. We're going to see that in just a moment. But it's actually more likely that it was social justice ideologies that pushed him towards this, that made him feel under threat when he wasn't. So let's have a look. How stupid can this get, guys? How on a scale of 1 to 10, how stupid can this get? Well, let's just have a look. So, I mean, certainly we can all agree terrorist attacks are bad, right? I mean, there's no way you could ever have any sympathy for somebody that commits a terrorist attack. Well, maybe not, because you can see here the Ohio State University Assistant Director of Residence Life. They say here it's a diversity officer, but that's the official title. Stephanie Clemens Thompson said we should be sympathetic with the attacker. First of all, so terrified of voicing her views, probably because a part of her brain realizes that it's a ridiculous, disgusting, disrespectful to the victims. It's a horrible thing to say. She said that the perpetrator was a Buckeye, a member of our family. If you think it's okay to celebrate his death and or share a photo of his dead body, and I see it in my timeline, I will unfriend you. I pray you find compassion for his life, as troubled as it clearly was. Think of the pain he must have been in to feel that his actions were the only solution. We must come together in this time of tragedy. Buckeye Strong, Black Lives Matter, say his name. Well, no, don't say his name, because actually when you do that, you encourage further attacks. This has been proven. FBI reports have said this as well. Once you make a hero, or a martyr in this case, out of an attacker, you encourage further attacks. So don't say his name, Stephanie. Definitely do not. And on top of that, sure, I would say he was a troubled young man. I'm not completely, I'm not completely inhuman. But let's definitely not, the day after the attack or during the attack, let's not find sympathy for the attacker. Let's not do that, shall we? Especially given you're in a position where the safety of residents is your key remit. You are coming out and saying that actually we must sympathize with a terrorist attacker. And also as well, I do find it interesting that when we talk about, let's find compassion, let's try and see things from his point of view for a terrorist, but you wouldn't do it for a Trump supporter, would you, Stephanie? You wouldn't do it for anybody who thinks Milo Yiannopoulos should be allowed to speak at your university. You wouldn't look at their viewpoint. You wouldn't look at their worldview. And not only that, for example, what about when people protest, or what about when people wrongly do decide to perpetrate hate crimes? Do we feel any sympathy with them? Because imagine how they must feel for their actions to be the only solution. Absolutely not. But a Muslim terrorist we must sympathize with. Now, this attack definitely led to just all-round insanity. Not a surprise, right? I'm almost loath to link this chap's Twitter, but again, you couldn't do a parody better than this. Godfrey Elfwick couldn't come up with this stuff. So this is Tareq Nasheed. He's the guy behind the Hidden Colors series, claims to be an anti-racism strategist, which is interesting because he absolutely hates white people. And he has his own podcast, which, again, listen to it. It's like a parody. I've had the misfortune of hearing it once or twice for research purposes. And you can see here, he says, so white officer Alan Haruko, who shot and killed a black Somali stabbing suspect in Ohio, is being paraded as a hero. That's interesting. Well, no, it's not interesting. It's factually accurate. His quick thinking saved lives. His quick thinking saved lives. Why on earth should we not parade him as a hero? This is an example of a completely clean and necessary shooting. I'm sure he didn't take his responsibility lightly, and he acted quickly. I hope the officer isn't too traumatized by it. Obviously, taking a life is a huge deal, but he acted completely proper and correct. There is no doubt about it, and I'm sure every student whose life he saved is incredibly grateful to him. That's not interesting. Those are facts, Tareq. Now, this man, as I said, he does like to go into parody. Somebody, said, I don't see why you're so concerned about justice for an attempted murderer. A murderer is a murderer is a murderer. And then he said, how can you imply anything about justice for a murderer? Because this is what he does. He race baits. When people take the bait, he just said, well, I never said that. You're wrong. You're making this up. You're a white supremacist. He literally calls everyone a white supremacist. Look at this. Helen M. I interpreted your tweet wrong, I suppose. It just sounds like you're saying the cop was wrong for stopping an active stabber. Tareq goes, I didn't say or imply that at all. You know why you think that, though? Because you're seeing things through white supremacist eyes. This is Helen M., a black woman with Black Lives Matter in her bio, who describes herself as unapologetically black. She's a white fucking supremacist, is she, Tareq fucking Nasheed? Are you mentally ill? Is this literally what you think is happening? You think she has white supremacist eyes? Black Lives Matter, unapologetically black, also a white supremacist on weekends. That's how fucked these people are. That's how fucked these race baiters are. It's unbelievable, isn't it? He can say that. There's not a trace of irony. He went and did an interview with Tucker Carlson on Fox and called him a white supremacist to his face for giving him a platform to explain his views. And again, look, Trust me, it's the tip of the iceberg with this fucker. He is mentally ill. Look at this one. Can anyone tell me what Fidel Castro did to people in Cuba that is not being done to black people in America right now? He rounded up gays and put them in camps, of course. I mean, far be it from me to suggest that maybe that's bad and isn't happening to blacks in America. He emptied prisons and told everyone to get out under pain of death, forcing people to make rafts and have to, take across the fucking sea to America to seek refuge. Don't see that happening to a lot of black people right now. But Tareq Nasheed says, when this is pointed out to him, I am under U.S. Nazi occupation right now as a non-white person. I mean, you may as well just go up to a Holocaust survivor and slap them in the face if you're going to say things like that. Because let me tell you, you are not living in a Nazi occupation, sir. You're absolutely not. But of course, another mentally ill leftist spouting his race-baiting bollocks, calling Black Lives Matter supporters white supremacists. And of course, it's just another day in the office, and these people are given platforms, and these people are taken seriously, when actually, they probably should be institutionalized for their own benefit. This guy, if he genuinely believes this, he's got serious mental health issues. If he believes a black woman who supports Black Lives Matter can be a white supremacist, he's got serious mental health issues. I'm being genuine here. But no, let's platform him. Let's listen to what he has to say. Now, just while we're on the subject of ridiculousness, obviously, that's what this show is mostly about. You won't see this on Reddit, ladies and gentlemen, because Reddit did their usual job of suppressing this and deleting any thread or locking any thread, rather, that talked about it, because some people might find this contemptible. This was the report, and this is the Guardian's iteration of it. And I think it's important when we show things like this, we don't take it from a right-wing source, we take it from a left-wing source, so we can say, look, even this publication finds this to be appalling. Moroccan state television ran a segment showing women how to hide signs of domestic violence with makeup. And it also didn't just do that. It told the women, cover up your bruises when your husband has beaten you, and just carry on with your daily life. Just carry on with your daily life. Now, you can see that there has been a negative reaction to this. But this is, Channel 2M. It's gone out, just daytime TV. And they had a woman who came in with fake bruises. And they used makeup to obscure those bruises. And saying, look, we hope this helps you go about your daily life. And this is, again, buying into the idea that culturally it's okay to beat women, to beat your wife in Morocco. Now, I think anybody can agree, any rational human being can agree, beating anybody isn't acceptable. Certainly beating your partner and wielding control over them, it's definitely not acceptable. I've seen what this can do in families. It's horrifying. And what you should be doing if you have a platform and being a national TV outlet is you should be encouraging women to speak out against abuse, to seek shelter from abusers, and to pursue remedy through legal channels, to break this cycle of fear and to speak out. And of course, it's incredibly hard in a culture. When we talk about the patriarchy existing in the West, this would never happen. You would never see daytime television telling women, this is how you cope with being beaten. This is how you cover up being beaten. You would never see this because everybody in the West accepts that this is completely appalling, that this is horrifying, that this is disgusting. Yet I'm told every day I'm a misogynist just because I got a swinging dick between my legs. But here I am speaking out against this. Meanwhile, this got actually locked on Reddit, and it was like, there's some anti-Islamic sentiment here, and and this is a cultural issue. But do we have to tolerate other cultures when they're so clearly, dehumanizing to women? The same people that tell you you're a misogynist will tell you that it's wrong to culture police people who beat their wives in a foreign I can't keep up with it. I can't keep up with how fucked it is, how mentally ill you have to be able to do this gymnastics to arrive at the idea that this is fucking okay, that you shouldn't speak out about this. So this is absolutely fucking disgusting. This is easily one of the worst things I've seen go out on television in any country. Just so aghast that this was a thing. And of course, timing's always brilliant. It happened 2 days before the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. Imagine being that editor that thought that was all right, eh? The channel did put a clarification out on Facebook saying the section was completely inappropriate and has an editorial error of judgment in view of sensitivity and the gravity of the subject of violence against women. I mean, it's almost as if you could have just come up with that beforehand. But this is basically, I don't think it's such a great leap to understand, to say that there'll be some women out there who probably took this on board, which is just really, really sad. And certainly, again, this normalization of domestic violence is just disgusting. It's just disgusting. Right, so what shall we go into now? Well, suppose this was an interesting Reddit thread. I definitely wanted to bring this to your attention. Over in Kotaku in action, an oasis of sanity in the internet, and certainly on Reddit. They'll be getting banned soon. I mean, they're going to... They think that it's just going to be the Donald that gets banned. Bad news, guys. They will come for you, Kotaku in action. You're on notice. You've already had to jump through more hoops than a lot of subreddits. Trust me, you're next. When the Donald can't be demonized, when that eventually gets banned or quarantined, you're next on the hit list. This was somebody from Channel 4, supposedly. And usually Kotaku in action, the mods verify stuff. So this was someone saying, I've worked for Channel 4 viewer inquiries for the last 2 years, taking viewer comments and responding to them via phone and email. We would get all sorts of subjective or superfluous comments on all sorts of things, but with the news is something that I think should be held to a high, objective standard of ethical reporting and of transparency with the viewers. They've utterly failed to do that. I've been watching the coverage for a long time, and subjects from Syria to Brexit to the US election, and the bias is absolutely palpable in almost everything they do. More than that, I would listen to or read comment after comment from viewers with viewpoints and information contrary to what would be reported. And it was more and more apparent to me that the editorial team couldn't care less what viewers think of the quality of news coverage. There were issues too I became aware of, not from viewer comments, but from digging around on the internet. For example, Channel 4 News retranslated this Syrian boy who was ranting about unbelievers, and this was a story that I don't know if you guys saw this. We didn't cover it in the show; it kind of fell between episodes. But this is literally what they did here, and this was somebody translated the subtitles on Channel 4, and look what they did. This is just on Twitter. Lena Arabi, a Syrian non-rebel and university student, she translated it and said it's an awkward moment when Channel 4 News translates "they're all infidels" into "I will not leave" and then tries to fix it a few hours later. So they literally subtitled a child saying "I will not leave" when they interviewed them in Aleppo. And actually, what he was saying was they're all unbelievers. And you can see, he didn't even say "I will not leave." He just said they're all unbelievers. And the Channel 4 still snuck in "I will not leave" in the correction. And she jokes, he's apparently speaking the Free Syrian dialect of Arabic. Words have a different meaning. Only Western media fully understands it. From what I gather, "they're all infidels" means "I will not leave." I also suspect "behead the infidels" means "I want democracy." So again, this ideological slant on factual reporting is happening. It's happening on mainstream news every day. If it doesn't fit the narrative, it cannot make broadcast. That is what they do. And so let's get back to this thread. Can't let the public be aware of indoctrination of these kids. It would go against the almighty narrative. With the US election, the coverage has been terrible. No detail of what has been revealed about Clinton, Podesta, and media collusion thanks to WikiLeaks. No info at all on CNN's Donna Brazil, for example. If Channel 4 News were your only source of information, you'd be clueless. They also repeated Clinton, Podesta talking points of blaming the Russians for the email leaks. Channel 4 News also pushed hard against Trump while they had barely anything on Clinton. The presenters would regularly, openly state, as though it's indisputable fact, that Trump is racist, sexist, all those bad things. The presenters are also terrible at interviews. Krishnan, Kathy Newman regularly shout over guests who do not fall on the hard left side of the spectrum. We all saw Kathy's interview with Milo. This was pretty embarrassing. Going to the dictionary definition of feminism to declare people a feminist when they don't identify as feminist is childish and stupid. Channel 4 News, to me anyway, seems like they're miles behind where the current conversation is. They're so ignorant they don't know what it is they're ignorant about. I think, as I like to add, that I know feminists in real life who are good people. We all have a laugh when we talk politics. I agree on some things, disagree on others. They're willing to listen to viewpoints they disagree with. There's a wide spectrum of beliefs. We're a race of billions of individuals. And I don't know about you, but I've never met someone who I agree with on everything. I want people to understand that just as right-wing news has been full of shit, left-wing news is full of shit today, and they're damaging the conversation by talking down to their audience. I'm not against classical feminism, but rather I'm against the new regressive left that has formed, and it is quite difficult to explain how extreme the regressive left is to people who aren't familiar. One of my attempts at it was describing how media targeted an innocent person in James Rolfe, and there was a Medium post here, and we won't get into it. So there's more chatter, and again, it's got to be said, there's no evidence that this person said that they lost a job at Channel 4 over it. Seems a bit of a weird story to tack on. I mean, I'm borderline inclined to believe it, but again, I'd take it with a pinch of salt. But certainly, what we know from just the factual evidence that's out there, more and more, the mainstream news isn't scrutinizing what they take on board and publish and present. We've seen this with The Guardian recently, of course. We saw this with other, publications wanting to put out alleged hate crimes that never happened, that were made up. As long as it suits the narrative, it can go out. Now, here's what's really interesting. We've talked a lot about fake news, and we've all got examples of when the mainstream media has actually put things out that are fake. This was a great article. It went out on NPR. And we tracked down a fake news creator in the suburbs, and here's what we learned. So I read this as a fascinating article. I strongly urge you to read it. And you can see, a lot of fake and misleading news stories were shared across social media during the election. One that got a lot of traffic had this headline: FBI agent suspected in Hillary email leaks found dead in apparent murder-suicide. The story is completely false. It was shared all over Facebook. I actually saw it in my Facebook feed as well. One of my friends, posted it, and I was like, "Look, dude, you gotta stop with this. Put down the weed and start actually scrutinizing where your sources come from." We wondered who was behind that story and why it was written. It appeared on a site that had the look and feel of a local newspaper. The DenverGuardian.com even had the local weather, but only had one news story, the fake one. We tried to look up who owned it and hit a wall. The site was registered anonymously, so we brought in some professional help. This professional help was John Jansen. He's the head of engineering at Master McNeil, a tech company in Berkeley, California. In the interest of real news, he helped us track down the owner of DenverGuardian.com. And again, I'm sure there are people out there, me doxing, you're doxing people. This is what journalists do, and given how interesting the report is, I think this is in the public interest. Given that fake news is being pushed out there, let's actually look at where it comes from, right? So this is good reporting, and if you've got to reveal someone's identity to get to the truth, that's unfortunately sometimes what has to happen. Jansen started by looking at the site's history, scraping, crawling websites. He says nothing you do on the internet disappears. It just gets buried like a fossil. And they found that Denver Guardian was built using WordPress, which is obviously a popular blogging platform. And from there, they found a handle, Let Texas Secede. Okay, so obviously someone that's into secession, probably someone who likes the Confederate flag. So immediately people are like, oh, here we go. It's more racism. It's a white supremacist. Brilliant. Keep that in mind. That was sort of the thread that started to unravel everything, Gansett said. I was able to track that through to a bunch of other sites, which are where that handle is also present. And the sites include nationalreport.net, usatoday.com.co, washingtonpost.com.co. All the addresses linked to a single rented server inside Amazon's web services. That meant they were all likely owned by the same company. Janssen found an email address on one of those sites and was able to link that address to a name, Yeston Kohler. Online, Kohler was listed as the founder and CEO of a company called Disinfo Media. So obviously a media company that practices in the arts of disinformation. And they found Kohler's LinkedIn profile. He said he once sold magazine subscriptions, worked as a database administrator, and as a freelance writer for, among others, International Yachtsman magazine. And using his name, we found a home address. On a warm, sunny afternoon, I set out with a producer for a suburb of Los Angeles. Kohler lived in a middle-class neighborhood of pastel-colored one-story beach bungalows. His home had an unwatered lawn, probably the result of California's ongoing drought. There was a black minivan in the driveway and a large prominent American flag. We rang the front doorbell and a man answered, his face obscured by a heavy mesh steel screen. I asked for Yeston Kohler. The man indicated that's who he was. But when I asked about Disinfo Media, he said, I don't know what to tell you guys. Have a good day. We left Kohler our contact information, thinking he wasn't likely to talk, but a couple hours later, he had a change of heart. He sent us an email and we set up an interview. Kohler is a soft-spoken 40-year-old with a wife and 2 kids. He says he got into fake news around 2013 to highlight the extremism of the white nationalist alt-right. Uh-oh. Narrative jarring. The guy behind these fake news stories, he's not right-wing. He's not racist. He's a liberal trying to make right-wing and white nationalists look ridiculous. There's your fake news, right? There's your fake news, liberal publications. Please, please, please pick this up. Please put this into your daily newsfeed when you're talking about fake news. How we've actually found evidence of a company dedicated to producing fake news for 3 years is a leftist group and is a left-leaning sympathizer. No, not going to report that, though. No. Why would we? That's crazy shit. Anyway, he says the whole idea from the start was to build a site that could kind of infiltrate the echo chambers of the alt-right. Yeah, because it's the right-wing people that have echo chambers. Publish blatantly fictional stories, and then be able to publicly denounce these stories and point out the fact that they were fiction. So that's the method of attack. You know, we publish a story, it's fake, everybody gets on board with it, the uneducated, idiots that perhaps peddle white supremacy start saying this is a fact, and then everyone goes, haha, look at these idiots, and look at what they believe, and this is fake news. But they were fed disinformation from a leftist source. So in the same way that the left would send people to Trump rallies to incite violence, they're now writing fake news to incite white supremacists. Isn't that brilliant? Think of the genius of that. Perhaps there wouldn't be a problem if you didn't do this. Who knows? He was amazed at how quickly fake news could spread and how easily people believe it. It's almost as if the mainstream media has been lying to everyone. He wrote one fake story for nationalreport.net about how customers in Colorado marijuana shops were using food stamps to buy pot. What that turned into was a state representative in the House of Colorado proposing actual legislation to prevent people from using their food stamps to buy marijuana based on something that had just never happened. During the run-up to the presidential election, fake news really took off. It was just anybody with a blog can get on there and find a big, huge Facebook group of kind of rabid Trump supporters just waiting to eat up this red meat that they're about to get served. It caused an explosion in the number of sites. I mean, my gosh, the number of just fake accounts on Facebook exploded during the Trump election. Bots. Kohler says his writers have tried to write fake news for liberals, but they never take the bait because the liberals are so intelligent. Liberals would never believe in fake news. That's why The Guardian just published an article by a well-known troll talking about alt-right poison. No, they never take the bait. Kohler's company, Disinfo Media, owns many phone news sites. He won't say how many, but he says he's one of the biggest fake news businesses out there, which makes him sort of a godfather of the industry. At any given time, Kohler says he has between 20 and 25 writers, and it was one of them who wrote the story in the Denver Guardian that an FBI agent who leaked Clinton emails was killed. Kohler says that over 10 days, the site got 1.6 million views. He says stories like this work because they fit into existing right-wing conspiracy theories. The people wanted to hear this, he says, so all it took was to write that story. Everything about it was fictional. The town, the people, the sheriff, the FBI guy, and then our social media guys kind of go out and do a little dropping it throughout Trump groups and Trump forums, and boy, it spread like wildfire. And as the story spread, Kohler makes money from the ads on the website. He wouldn't give exact figures, but he says stories about other fake news proprietors make him between $10,000 and $30,000 a month. Kohler fits into a pattern of other phone news sites that make good money, especially by targeting Trump supporters. So, these evil alt-right people that are faking news, actually what they're doing is they are making money for leftist people who write disinformation, write lies, drop crumbs in there using fake accounts and fake social media accounts, and then when it gets, retweeted out there, liked out there, people post it in their Facebook feeds. They then turn, the media then turn around and go, yeah, look at these right-wingers. Look at these idiot Trump supporters. Brilliant, right? I mean, it's nonsense. So once again, another narrative skewered, I think we can say, right? But of course, you won't see this. That article, I think it's a great piece of reporting. But you're not going to see it pushed in the mainstream media. You will not see that. Because, again, it's far better that we believe the alt-right are writing these stories. And they're doing it because they're liars and they're evil. Not that they're actually being baited by progressives, because that might make the progressives look like bad people. And we absolutely can't have that, can we? Because that would be, that'd be unacceptable. We might have to take responsibility for our actions. Right, so I suppose we should just briefly touch on a few things before I get out of here. This one is another Guardian article. Remember, fearless journalism. That's what they want, fearless journalism. Oh, it's been removed. Hang on a minute, that wasn't supposed to happen. Maybe they've actually decided to take it down because it was a load of nonsense. Let me just see if that is the case. Okay. Oh, no, they've just changed the URL. Why not? So let's try that again. Here it is. For a minute there, I thought The Guardian had a moment of awareness where they had actually took some responsibility for false reporting. I'll have to keep waiting for that one, I suppose. So what Gamergate should have taught us about the alt-right? Again, this idea that any movement that wants to skewer media narratives is somehow right-wing and racist continues in The Guardian, in The Guardian's tech section, which is a sewer. And you can see it's understandable the world didn't much care about Gamergate. I mean, apart from all the constant press coverage, apart from the fact that it made mainstream media debates, mainstream news, apart from the fact that it prompted, people who were absolute plebs and nobodies, it prompted them to create content that was just getting funded by the mainstream media. But yeah, no one really cared about it. It wasn't a big deal. I mean, there was that fucking CSI episode as well about it, but no one cared. No one cared about it. No one cared about it. The hashtag campaign, ostensibly founded to protest about perceived ethical failures in games journalism, no, just ethical failures, clearly thrived on hate. Even though many of those who aligned themselves with the movement either denied there was a problem with harassment or wrote it off as an unfortunate side effect. I mean, again, I have seen no evidence whatsoever in the entire time of people criticizing Gamergate and doing this thing they call game dropping, where they just bring up Gamergate and say it's a hate movement. I've never seen any proof of a centralized group coordinating hate attacks. Never seen it. If anyone can link me to it, I will revise my opinion. But until then, I go off evidence. I like facts. So when you show me proof of a organized group of individuals coordinating harassment against people who speak out against Gamergate, until that happens, I have to believe Gamergate is not a movement. It is a hashtag. And it was obviously, like a hashtag, anybody can use a hashtag. We can't police a hashtag. So occasionally, there'll have been some nutters, there'll have been some idiots There'll have been some radicals. I think it's interesting, isn't it, that, you know, the left will say, don't brand, not all Muslims, if there's a Muslim radical attack, but if one or two people in Gamergate do stupid things and unacceptable things, all of Gamergate is a hate movement. It's weird how that works, isn't it? It's weird, that cognitive dissonance, that they can hold those two ideas simultaneously. Isn't that strange? Isn't that weird? So, you can see, again, sure, women, minorities, and progressive voices in the industry were suddenly living in fear. I mean, again, hysteria is the term we're looking for. Sure, those who spoke out in their defense were quickly silenced through exhausting bursts of online abuse. I mean, no one was silenced. In fact, actually, the people that were trying to argue with them were silenced more often than not. No one got deplatformed for saying Gamergate was a bad thing. Plenty of people who spoke out in support of Gamergate did, though. That wasn't why people supported it, right? They were disenfranchised, they felt ignored and wanted to see a systematic change. This is all sounding rather familiar now. Does it remind you of something? If you're discovering the world of angry anonymous online dudes masquerading as victims, hi, come in. Some of us have been here a while. So yeah, I mean, again, obviously, Gamergate's evil, and you know, the alt-right's evil, and this is what I mean. They're lining up. Have you noticed the trend where people push back against this regressive nonsense? People don't want to be censored. People don't want to be word policed. People don't want to be tone policed. People don't want to have to go to a job and recognize that there's 63 different genders under pain of punishment. People don't want to live in that culture, and the pushback against that is now, you know, people, instead of learning it and maybe revising, dialing down their nonsense, they're just saying, you're all racist. The majority of the world, apparently, is racist, misogynistic, unreasonable, hateful. That's their reality. That's the world they wake up to every day. There's nothing to substantiate this, nothing to support it, but that's the world they wake up to every day. And you can see, of course, here they come in. Let's just have a look at some of this. Lest we forget, Gamergate was an online movement that effectively began because a man wanted to punish his ex-girlfriend. Well, there's kind of some truth in that, but actually what he was talking about wasn't that his girlfriend had cheated on him. And again, like I said, I never give a fuck that Zoe Quinn, she can do whatever she wants. She can fuck whoever she wants. But the allegation very specifically was that she had used sex and traded it for favorable coverage, and there was certainly some indicators that this might be true. That is what led to Gamergate. That fact, not... I don't think anyone cares about the cheating thing. I don't think anyone's really brought that up. You can see here Anita Sarkeesian's videos applying basic feminist theory to video games already made her a target. You know, not necessarily true. The fact that she cherry picks facts to demonize gamers, that made her a target in inverted commas. I mean, a target for criticism, which is ironic, isn't it? That a critic can't handle being criticized. You know, and certainly these death threats all look to be very suspicious, don't they? She also, of course, ran Kickstarters where she took money and then didn't deliver on her promises. But, you know, why let the facts get in the way of just another daily load of bullshit about how Gamergate's evil? This led to death threats, rape threats, and the leaking of personal information. Other notable targets included Brianna Wu, actor Felicia Day, and prominent tech culture writer Lee Alexander. Well, yes. She wrote a provocative article about the tyranny of game culture. So yeah, let's all hear it for Lee Alexander, right? I mean, definitely doesn't work for The Guardian. You wouldn't just be promoting somebody who works for The Guardian in an article about Gamergate. I mean, you wouldn't do that, right? Because that in itself would be ironic, because that might be an ethical breach. You definitely wouldn't do that, would you? I mean, there's no way you would do that. You would have at least a level of self-awareness. Let's just have it's Lee Alexander who works for The Guardian. Okay, cool, right? No problem. This is Lee Alexander, one of the most grotesque offenders in violating ethics. She runs The Guardian's tech podcast. And you can just see, I mean, I urge you to go to deepfreeze.it, just have a read of the things she's been involved in. I mean, it's absolutely nonsense. She's written constantly about their friends and not disclosed personal relationships or financial ties. You can see here, she wrote about Nina Freeman in 3 articles, only disclosed the friendship in the last one. That was because of the public pressure. Obviously, she said she wasn't a member of the Game Journo Pros emails, which was another thing that really started Gamergate that everyone forgets about. Everyone focuses on Zoe Quinn's sex life. Of course, the Game Journo Pros email leaks were a much bigger issue. And then it was proven that she was. So she was just lying again. She obviously attacked Anne Rice, said Anne Rice was a harasser because she said when you leave fake book reviews, this is bad. Anyway, just have a read of this. She is an absolute piece of shit. It just blows my mind that anyone would champion this individual. She is guilty of every abuse a journalist can be guilty of, pretty much. I mean, that's just how that one goes. So, no problem there. Anyway, we'll just get back to the article and wonderfully summarize it, because, of course, The Guardian is such a great publication with their fearless journalism. And on it goes, and you can see what it does. It does the old classic, let's all let's all conflate Gamergate. And even though loads of people I know who support Gamergate were Bernie supporters and things like that, obviously what they're really into are harassing women, right-wing, and Trump. And it's ridiculous. I've seen more criticism of, Breitbart on Kotaku in Action than I have of a lot of publications. The idea they just buy into Breitbart and the alt-right and everything else. Kotaku in Action are just a subreddit that likes to criticize the media and media spin, much like myself. So the idea that you can just label them one group of things is just absolute nonsense. But on it goes. Talks about Milo. Got to name drop Milo and talk about how he's evil. And they do that here by saying he's a disgraced journalist and entrepreneur. He closed his tech site, The Kernel. He actually sold it eventually to the Daily Dot. Wouldn't talk about that. And yes, it was a tech startup that hit problems, and there were some debts assigned with it. How many leftist tech startups have we seen closed down? Plenty, I imagine, right? Now, there were some stories that came out of that time where apparently he threatened to release some photos about an individual journalist, which, of course, isn't cool. Yeah, but we've all done shit. I mean, we all fuck up, And the idea that Milo was a disgraced journalist before he even went to Breitbart is mischaracterizing what he was about and things that had happened in his past. And then again, claims he got banned. The claims here he got banned from Twitter for abusing a woman. Well, no, actually, Leslie Jones didn't certainly abuse Milo Yiannopoulos. What he did was write a negative review about the Ghostbusters movie. She seized upon it, he responded, and he got banned, and she didn't, even though they were guilty of doing the exact same thing. So you can see they're going to double down on the lies. They're going to double down on the narrative. It's not going anywhere. It isn't going to go anywhere. And just as a follow-up, of course, we have it again. Now, Breitbart, under more and more pressure, people are trying to deplatform Breitbart. People are trying to take their money away. And we already said last episode about how, there was an ad platform that didn't want them to, didn't want to support Breitbart on the grounds that it promoted hate speech. That was AppNexus, provided no evidence of any hate speech whatsoever. Well, now you can see that other people are pulling their ads. So, for example, Kellogg's, the maker of cereal, they have decided that they want to pull their ads from Breitbart. And you can see here, this was a representative from Kellogg's said, "We regularly work with our media buying partners to ensure our ads do not appear on sites that aren't aligned with our values as a company. We recently reviewed the list of sites where our ads can be placed and decided to discontinue advertising on Breitbart.com. We are working to remove ads from that site." Kellogg offered no example of how Breitbart's 45 million monthly readers and rising failed to align with the breakfast maker's values. And indeed, you just make cereal. You make cereal. What are your values, oh cereal maker? Tell me more about your values. I want to learn more about Kellogg's values. I want to learn more about that. What does Tony the Tiger have to say on geopolitics? Feed me more. I look to corporations for my moral guidelines. Nonsense. All nonsense. And there was plenty more going on, but unfortunately I'm pushed for time. I have to go and do this show now and get ready and everything else. So there you have it. Just more media bullshit. Obviously, once this week is over, the content will be a little bit more free-flowing. Still going to try and hit that video a day. Sam's back. Sam will be doing some stuff with me very soon. But all I can say is thanks for tuning in. Stay woke. Don't let this media bullshit fucking bog you down. Don't let them lie to you and fool you with their fucking narrative. And certainly, I will see you on the next episode of The Richard Lewis Show. Take care.